Welcome to We Rise Together. I'm Amala Grace, and this is a space for returning to yourself. Here we explore the stories we carry, the patterns that shape us, and the quiet ways we begin to rise out of survival and into wholeness. One breath, one shift, one moment at a time. I'm glad you're here. In the last couple episodes, we talked about survival mode, what it looks like, what it does to your system, and how it ends up running the show even when your conscious mind thinks it's the one in charge. Today, I want to talk about one of the biggest effects of long-term survival mode. What happens when you start losing connection with yourself? It can be sneaky and subtle, not big and melodramatic. And sometimes the moment you notice it impacts you more than anything you've been pushing through. Let me tell you about a moment this happened to me. For most of my life, I was pretty much a daydreaming machine, a walking, talking, self-powered Hollywood studio in my mind. I'm not exaggerating. My imagination had better production values than most of Netflix. I'd picture myself walking on stage to accept an Oscar or a Tony, and I could tell you exactly what the dress looked like. It's emerald green, shimmery, and fits like I'm a Greek goddess, by the way. I had mental travel reels of myself wandering through gorgeous cities, staying in beautiful places, living in a home with a big pool, always flying first class. Not because I couldn't buy a private jet, mind you, but because I had very strong opinions about unnecessary carbon output. Dreaming wasn't something I did for fun. It was just how my brain functioned, constantly, sometimes annoyingly. And then, somewhere in the middle of years of illness and exhaustion and doing everything I could just to get through each day, something shifted. My imagination went quiet. I didn't notice it at first. I guess you don't really notice when a light goes out if you've already been walking around in the dark. One afternoon, someone asked me very casually, "What do you want to do next? What are you working toward?" And my mind just didn't know what to do with the question. It couldn't come up with an answer. It didn't even try. The whole thing stalled out like a computer that refuses to boot. Nothing, nada, a zip. And that moment hit me hard because it suddenly became clear I had been in protective mode for so long that I forgot dreaming was something I was allowed to do. I forgot I had a future. I forgot there were chapters of my life I hadn't lived yet. My system had trimmed away everything that wasn't essential for moment-to-moment survival, including the part of me that imagined anything beyond the next 24 hours. That's what losing connection with yourself can look like. Not necessarily dramatic, just a quiet, hollow black hole where your dreams used to live. And here's why this happens. When your system goes into protective mode, it gets very practical. It focuses on keeping you alive, upright, and minimally functional. That's it. Dreaming, imagining, longing, creating. These all fall into the not essential for staying alive category. So your system turns the volume down on them. And if you stay in that state long enough, it can turn the volume off entirely. Meanwhile, the parts of you that make you you, your preferences, your instincts, your desires, your personality, your dreams, all get dimmed. Not because they're unimportant, but because they take energy your system doesn't think it has. Self-expression becomes optional. Hope becomes optional. Even wanting things becomes optional. Protective mode is thorough like that, efficient, a little too good at its job. And the tricky thing is, from the outside, this doesn't always look obvious. You can be functioning. You can seem fine. You can pay your bills, answer your emails, smile at strangers, make a nice dinner. But internally, you're living far away from yourself, like Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan in Sleepless in Seattle. You know you're disconnected when your preferences go fuzzy, you're ambivalent, your instincts feel distant or muted, decisions feel like guesswork, nothing excites you, everything feels like effort, the idea of the future feels blank, empty. You feel like you're watching yourself live your life instead of participating in it. You don't often hear people talk about this because it sounds existential, woo-woo, but it's actually physiological. Your system has been running a long-term conservation strategy. It's trying to protect you from overwhelm, from disappointment, from collapse. It thinks it's helping. It doesn't understand that in trying to save your life, it's dimming the very things that make your life feel like yours. So, how do you begin to reconnect with yourself? Well, you can't force it. Passion can't be manufactured. And you can't simply decide, okay, I'm going to reinvent myself before lunch. Reconnection starts small. I mean itty-bitty. You start by noticing what your system responds to, what feels even slightly interesting, what brings the tiniest spark of curiosity or warmth or comfort. You don't need to leap from I feel nothing to I have a 5-year plan. That's a huge jump and completely unrealistic for a system that's been in protective mode for years. You begin with something much simpler. Contact. Contact with your own preferences. Contact with what feels supportive, good. Contact with the part of you that still exists underneath everything you've been carrying. This is where that sense of self starts to come back online at its own pace. Here's something small to try this week and keep it very chill. Once a day, ask yourself, what would feel good to me right now, even in the smallest way? Maybe it's a certain kind of food, a color that feels comforting, an item of clothing that feels super cozy to wear, a song you suddenly remember loving, even the desire to, sit on the floor for no logical reason at all. Go crazy. It doesn't matter. Just what would feel good right now? You don't have to hunt for the perfect answer. You're just opening a little space to listen. If nothing comes up, that's okay. Blankness is part of this stage. If something flickers, even a little, that's your system starting to trust there's room for you again. That's the beginning of coming back to yourself. Next time, we're going to talk about the early signs that your system is shifting out of protective mode. These shifts are subtle, incredibly easy to miss, but once you know what they look like, you'll start spotting them everywhere. And they're hopeful signs. They mark the beginning of real change. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Be good to the person you're becoming. Infinite love and gratitude.